Hey guys, Nate the Film Nerd here, doing a different type of video today. Instead of doing a random movie review, which my channel is mostly known for, I'm going to be talking about a movie that hasn't come out yet, but the trailer has. I am referring to Happy Gilmore 2. And the question I'll be posing for this video is, do we really need a Happy Gilmore 2? Now, I know technically when it comes to sequels in general, most of the time we don't, genuinely need a sequel to movies. For example, the first Alien movie, directed by Ridley Scott, of course, is a perfect standalone, simple monster movie that is executed perfectly, and although has an ambiguous ending, is still a satisfying conclusion for our character, and it works perfectly as a standalone movie. But many years later, we'd end up getting Aliens, and one of the reasons Aliens is often mentioned as being one of the greatest sequels of all time is because it does something different. It doesn't recycle the same formula that you see in the first movie. Instead, it greatly expands on the lore of the xenomorph while giving us more new and interesting characters, giving a really satisfying emotional arc for Ripley and the character of Newt, and overall the tone, the pacing, the directional and visual style of Aliens is completely different from Alien. And so what we get is a sequel that many people consider to be even superior than the first Alien movie. At least I do. I know that's, arguable, but we get two amazing movies with a sequel that does something completely different and, makes the first movie even more awesome. And a more recent example, a legacy sequel example of a movie that we didn't necessarily need, but it turned out to be fantastic, is the movie Creed with Michael B. Jordan, the legacy sequel to the Rocky franchise. It's like, did we really need a movie about Apollo Creed's illegitimate son trying to become a boxer on his own? No, but the result is a movie that is fantastic because it rides the line perfectly between honoring the legacy of the Rocky character and franchise as a whole, while also having its own personal story and its own sense of identity and just an overall different feel in comparison to the other Rocky movies. And so what we get is a movie that works beautifully within that franchise and feels necessary because of how well executed and satisfying it was as a film. But when it comes to comedy sequels, and especially legacy sequels, more times than not, comedy sequels are usually pretty terrible. Especially when we talk about later era comedy sequels like Dumb and Dumber 2, Zoolander 2, Coming to America. I mean, these movies are not only bad, but they're atrocious. And I'm offended that they even exist in our timeline. They're so fucking terrible and insulting to the original movies. And I can't really think of many good examples of genuinely great legacy comedy sequels. I mean, I think maybe you could make an argument for Anchorman 2. I think there's some pretty funny stuff in that movie, but it still doesn't hold a candle to the first Anchorman. Hell, even Bill and Ted's Face the Music, which is actually a fairly decent comedic legacy sequel, doesn't even come close to Excellent Adventure or Bogus Journey, at least in my opinion. I think that's many Bill and Ted fans' opinion, where it's yeah, that was fine. We didn't really need it, and the result is a Bill and Ted movie that is the worst of the three movies by far. And then that leads us into Happy Gilmore 2, where there's kind of a lot of things going against Happy Gilmore 2. There's the fact that it's a legacy sequel that, based on the trailer alone, is recycling the same gags that you see from the first movie. I mean, there's the gag of Happy having a dumb, goofy caddy, Ben Stiller's character showing up with the handlebar mustache saying the exact same line as he did in the first Happy Gilmore movie.
Check out the name tag, grandson. You're in my world now.
Shooter McGavin showing up in Happy Gilmore, once again recycling the same line that we heard in the first Happy Gilmore movie again.
Who eats pieces of shit for breakfast?
There's also the gag where Happy runs into the son of Chubbs, who also has a wooden hand, who also accidentally crushes his wooden hand, and he makes a joke about super glue, just like in the first movie. And based on the trailer, a plot that is basically the same as the first movie, where instead of getting money for his grandma to rescue her house, he's getting money for his daughter in order for her to go to ballet school. And it's already there's no good sign that this movie is going to be anywhere near as good as the first movie, and even more unfortunate, it seems like it's just going to be completely and utterly pointless. Oh yeah, there's also the thing that's been going around where they took a still image of the trailer where it appears Eminem shows up in a cameo, and it looks like him and Happy Gilmore are going to fight just like he did with Bob Barker in the first movie. So recycling the same shit over and over and over again. And that's often why most comedy sequels fail, is because they don't really know how to expand on the character or the stories, because these aren't that type of movies. These aren't dramatic movies with depthful characters. These are movies where you make funny gags, and they just end up kind of recycling the same shit that they did from the first movie. Look no further than the fucking Hangover movies, right? Where Hangover 2 and 3, 2 specifically, is just like, we're just going to do the exact same thing as the first movie, but this time in Thailand, or I think it's in Thailand. I only saw that movie once and it was fucking stupid. And when it comes to the first Happy Gilmore movie, I, like most people, absolutely love this movie. I have a huge nostalgic connection to this film. It's probably my most rewatched Adam Sandler comedy. It's a comfort movie to me. It's lighthearted, it's silly, it's goofy, it does everything it does well in terms of just being a funny, irreverent type of comedy. And there's absolutely no reason for a sequel to exist. It's based on the Happy Gilmore 2 trailer, it's already doing that stupid trope where it's like, hey, remember this iconic character that we grew up with? Well, now look at him as being a lame slob who's like back to living in the slums and he has to work his way up again. It's like the Rocky 5 syndrome. Why do they keep doing that? Why do they keep doing like, oh, here's our character, 30, 40 some odd years later, and they're a loser again? It's like, how many times do we have to keep seeing that in these really lame later era sequels? It's so stupid. And then on top of the fact, Adam Sandler hasn't made a good comedy movie, with the exception of his stand-up he did, the 100% Fresh stand-up, which I thought was going to be terrible, but then I watched it and I thought it was hilarious. And I actually was mad because I'm like, okay, so Adam Sandler clearly can be funny, so what the fuck is he doing with like Grown Ups 2 or like The Do-Over or Murder Mystery or Hubie Halloween, all these completely disposable and pointless and like almost completely laugh-free comedies? I mean, Jesus Christ. So my theory for Happy Gilmore 2 is that it is going to be like every other pointless legacy comedy sequel, where people may be initially excited at first because of the whole memberberries nostalgia bait thing, and like, hey, I love the first Happy Gilmore, and like, yeah, I'm ready for a Happy Gilmore 2. It's gonna come out, it's absolutely gonna suck. If you look at any of the reviews for the comedy legacy sequels that I've mentioned already, almost all of which have terrible reviews across the board, not just from the critics but from the audiences as well. My prediction is that the exact same thing is going to happen with Happy Gilmore 2, and we're going to be left with a sequel that nobody cares about, and we're only going to watch the first Happy Gilmore. But I want to hear from you guys. For those who have seen the trailer to Happy Gilmore 2, what are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on comedy legacy sequels in general? Are there any genuinely good examples of a good legacy comedy sequel, like meaning a sequel that came out at least a decade or more after the original film? If you can think of any, list them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching.